Assalamualaikum and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our evening forum of today. First of all, I would like to thank all of the audience in front of me. Thank you for attending. Before we start, let me introduce all of you to our panelists for tonight. On the very left is Professor Najia, lecturer from the Faculty of Modern Language and Communication at University Putra Malaysia, and beside her is Professor Sofea, who is currently working as a psycholinguist. Both of our panelists tonight will discuss with us the topic of different language with different worldviews. And right beside me is our specially invited researcher, Professor Najia Dr. Maisara, who will tell us regarding her recent research on the effects of COVID-19 towards the financial distress. Welcome, Doctor. With me again, Aliesya as your moderator for tonight. So, as has been stated, the first speak for our forum today is the topic of different language with different worldviews. Language is a tool of communication and expression that is used every day in one's life, be it in verbal or written conversation, or in expressing culture, thoughts, and feelings. For your information, different language have different structures and they possess different worldviews that are believed to be associated with humans' processing of thought. The relation between humans' thoughts and the perceptions of the world with the language they speak is often associated with the prominent superroof hypothesis. For your information more, there are two forms of this hypothesis, which are linguistic determinism and linguistic relativism. The former form is when the language one speaks determines one's thoughts and perception of the world, while the latter form says the way the speakers of different language think of the world are different because different language encode different categories. So, Prof. Sofea, can you explain to us the relationship of the superroof hypothesis and the masses?
Thank you to our moderator, Ms. Aliesya, and welcome to all the audience. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning abed to all. So let us now discuss the Marxist language and the relation with linguistic determinism and linguistic relativism. So for starters, or for brief introduction, the Marxist people are an aboriginal people of the Peruvian and Brazilian Amazon whose lands at the moment are now invaded with illegal poaching and logging. You can find out more about the Marxist people after this. Okay, now moving on. An interesting feature of this Marxist language is the evidentiality embedded in their language. So what is evidentiality? Evidentiality is a grammatical category used to state the source of our information. For example, if Dr. Najia asked me where Dr. Maisara went yesterday, I would need to answer her whereabouts along with how I know the information. So instead of just saying Dr. Maisara went to the library, I have to mention something along the line of I infer that Dr. Maisara went to the library or I saw her. So one might argue that in English or Malay, we can also state our information, but it's different for the Marxist language. English speakers like us, we can just add some extra words to provide our source information. But in Marxist language, or about 25% of other languages in the world, like Korean or Turkish, the evidentiality is an obligation. So for the Marxist language, evidentiality is embedded as the derivational morpheme, or specifically the suffixes. So if the Marxist people do not mention their source of information, they may appear to be unreliable. The sentences are like grammatically wrong, or they are just wrong in the head. So one might wonder, if evidentiality in their language is mandatory, then that means Marxist people are honest and trustworthy with their words, no? However, ladies and gentlemen, it is not the case. There is no direct or concrete evidence to prove the information credibility or honesty of the people, of the speaker of language with the grammatical evidentiality. So the evidentiality in Marxist language does not determine the speakers to be honest or to be reliable in their words. In fact, as human, we can be very manipulative with evidential value. It is found that some people use the evidentiality to appear to be certain when maybe their information is not that accurate, but they use evidentiality to appear certain. Nevertheless, the Marxist language does support the linguistic relativism. Even though the accuracy in source reporting of the Marxist language is not guaranteed, they are believed to be better in stating detailed sources, and they are more sensitive to the sources of information. So I think that's all from me. To conclude my sharing today, the grammatical evidentiality in the Marxist language does not support the linguistic determinism, but they do support the linguistic relativism. Now I shall pass the mic back to Ms. Maisara Aliesya.
Thank you for the very detailed explanation, Prof. From what Prof. Sofea has said, now we know the way Marxist language relates to the superproof hypothesis, which Marxist language actually does not support the linguistic determinism, but does approve the linguistic relativism. Moving on, my next question is dedicated to Prof. Najia, who is sitting at the corner. So Prof, other than the Marxist language stated by Prof. Sofea, is there any more language, and can you tell us further about it?
First of all, thank you to Ms. Maisara Aliesya for the opportunity, and Assalamualaikum to everyone. Today, I, Dr. Najia, will discuss about Guguye Mesir, a language originated from an Aboriginal tribe from North Queensland, Australia. This language is considered unique because in this language, humans are not the center of the world. Discourse about position and motion of inflected forms of 4 cardinal root directions are heavily utilized. To put it in simple words, they use north, west, east, and south. In their language, position and direction are not based on objects, but on these 4 cardinal points. It is very different from us, as in English, directions and positions are in relative to humans or objects. But unlike English speakers, this tribe does not use egocentric positioning such as left and right. All Guguye Mesir speakers have a built-in compass in their brain to help them to know which north, south, west, and east are without any hesitation at any moment. For example, when someone is reading a book while facing north, and a Guguye Mesir speaker want you to skip the page, he or she will say, go further east. This is because, as we all know, pages are flipped from east to the west. On the opposite, if you are reading a book while facing south, he or she will say, go further west. So based on this conversation, it is clear that a Guguye Mesir speaker will address a point based on where someone is facing. For them, axes always remain constant. Based on the example that I have given before, it proves that Guguye Mesirs orient themselves along the compass line, and position and direction are not correlated to themselves. They also need to include geographic direction whenever they want to communicate regarding special information. Thus, this supports language relativism because, as we can see, Guguye Mesir and English speakers has different point of view. It is obvious that their language affect the way they think. Additionally, as Guguye Mesir speakers tend to include cardinal direction in everyday conversation, they are more coordinated than English speakers.
What about language determinism, Doctor? Do you think Guguye Mesir supports or against it?
For language determinism, I believe that this language against it. Just because their language does not define direction in relative to people does not mean that they cannot grasp the concept that there is someone behind them. Therefore, this proves that Guguye Mesir does not support language determinism, as even though Guguye Mesir speakers has different concept of direction and position from English speakers, they can still understand English speakers' worldview. It does not restrain their worldview, but only expand their point of view as they can grasp both. It is an advantage for them instead.
Beneficial sharing from Prof. Najia. For everyone's attention, both of our panelists today are very dedicated and intellectuals in the field of language. To be having their presence today is indeed an honor. Thank you, I bid to Prof. Sofea and Dr. Najia. Shifting our attention to the sweet person sitting next to me, Professor Madhya Dr. Maisara. So, Prof, due to the COVID-19 pandemic that hits hard on us today, a lot of businesses and individuals in Malaysia suffer from financial crisis. What would you like to share with us regarding your research on financial distress due to this pandemic? Maybe how the research is conducted and the findings you gain from your research.
Thank you very much, Maisara. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamualaikum. First thing first, I would like to explain a bit about what is financial distress. Financial distress can be best defined as a situation where organization or individuals cannot generate their usual income, making them unable to pay their financial obligations. It's actually a harbinger of bankruptcy and can cause damage to one's creditworthiness. But companies can avoid this situation by cutting their costs or restructuring. For example, as can be seen in the news, AirAsia had laid off 10% of its staff, about 2,400 of them. In early 2020, the company already laid off 250 staff, and this is because AirAsia, as the low-cost airline company, is severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to survive and avoid bankruptcy, the company decided to cut their costs in terms of salary and number of workers. I've been researching. The purpose is to identify how financially affected companies and working individuals are and how they overcome it. The methodology used to conduct this research is the distribution of questionnaire to 65 working respondents. In the survey, about 16.9% of the respondents said that they are badly affected, while 27.7%, which is 18 respondents, said that they were not affected at all, and the rest of them said that they are slightly affected. 40% of the respondents said that they are working part-time jobs and need to find side income in any other ways just to survive during COVID-19 pandemic. But what saddens me is there are some respondents stated that he or she has to sell their assets and use their savings just to stay alive, as their finances are greatly affected during this COVID-19 pandemic. In this survey, I and my team also asked the specific reason for having financial distress, and most of them, about 43% of the respondents, voted that they lose their job and have no sales throughout the year, and about 7 respondents said that they suffer from financial distress due to unpaid salary. Furthermore, in the survey, we also mentioned about the government financial aid, or BPN, stands for Bantuan Prihatin Nasional, and how efficient it is in overcoming the businesses and individuals' financial crisis. More than half of the respondents, about 52.3%, voted that it is helpful for them, and 10.8% said that it is appreciably helpful. But 4.6% of the respondents said that the government financial aid is not efficient at all. Personally, I think the government already did its best by distributing the BPN in lessening the burdens of Malaysians. We are also very concerned about other effects of financial distress on citizens, so we asked about it in the questionnaire. Shockingly, 29 of the respondents voted that they are suffering from a mental health problems, and this reminds me of a pilot who committed suicide after losing his job. Does any of you ever hear about this?
Yes, I've heard about it. It happened in Serdang, where a pilot decided to jump off from his residential unit on the 12th floor. It was said that he worked as a pilot for a local airline company but was terminated about 2 months before he committed suicide last August.
Yes, Professor Sofea. That incident shows how much pressure financial distress puts on someone, not just mental health, but some respondents agreed that they experienced family issues, relationship issues, and physical health. Moving on to the next question in the survey, we asked about the discretionary income of the businesses and individuals. 41.5% of the respondents agreed that their discretionary income has decreased, while 7.7% of the respondents found out that their discretionary income has increased. For the last questions in the survey, about 43.1% of respondents voted that their finances will get worse if the COVID-19 continues, and 15.4% agreed that their financial condition will get better if the COVID-19 continues. It is because some of them might lose job, but some of them might get a new job, and for the online business owner, the sales might increase.
An amazing result of your research, Prof. Maisara. Actually, I would like to ask if you just stick to one method, or do you have any other method in conducting this research?
I have also interviewed an individual who owns a steakhouse in my area.
Okay, saya Rahim, bekerja sebagai pemaju perumahan dan transporter.
Okey, saya ada beberapa soalan untuk ditanyakan kepada Encik Naim.
Okay.
Soalan pertama ialah dalam skala 1 hingga 5, bermakna 5 yang paling teruk, pada takat berapakah COVID-19 ini memberi kesan terhadap kewangan Encik?
Kesannya memang dalam jugalah, lebih kurang 5 hingga 60% daripada yang sekarang.
Soalan seterusnya, macam mana atau apakah langkah yang diambil untuk Encik mengatasi masalah kewangan Encik?
Okey, untuk mengatasi masalah kewangan, kita mulakan dengan cara baru dari segi perbelanjaan, minimizekan kata kalau sebelum ni kita berbelanja macam biasa, so kita akan reduce sikit 50%, dan di situ saya rasa nampak dia punya penyematan tu. Dan dari segi cara untuk memulihkan keadaan, kita lebihkan kepada marketing untuk dari segi promotion, COD, dan buat iklan kita melalui media, melalui Facebook ataupun Instagram.
Baru-baru ini kerajaan ada memberi bantuan nasional prihatin BTN. Bagaimanakah inisiatif kerajaan ini dapat membantu Encik dari segi membaik pulih kewangan Encik?
Alhamdulillah, dia bagi pun boleh menampunglah kos kata perbelanjaan tu, boleh menampung. Dan terima kasih kepada kerajaan membantu.
Based on the interview, the result is just similar to the survey. The owner said that he is also affected by the pandemic, about 50% to 60% than usual. It's because the number of his customer reduced by about a few percent. To overcome this problem, he has to minimize the expenses for the supply. Other than that, he focuses on the marketing of his steakhouse and offers cash on delivery (COD) services to maximize his profit during COVID-19 pandemic. But he was thankful that the government financial aid was distributed to help small businesses like his to survive during the pandemic.
The sharing today has been really interesting and eye-opening. If it's not for the time envying us, I would like this to never end. Unfortunately, everything must come to an end. But every ending is a new beginning. May from the knowledge gained from our sharing today will be the reason for the beginning of something good. That's all for our forum session for tonight. I, Sarah Aliesya, as your moderator, signing off with Assalamualaikum.